In this country, there was a time when our second president, out of probably misadvice, outlawed social football clubs. World over, if you go to Germany, if you go to UK, all those clubs are born out of social groupings. Emirates, we have my team, Arsenal. You have Manchester United, you have Man City, you have Bayern Munich, Bayer Leverkusen, all this. Can you, pardon? Our team. You also have our team, and you have Murkomen's team called Manu. If you find favor with this committee and become a CS, would you consider formulating policy to the extent that corporates don't have to run football teams, but they can sponsor football teams? I don't understand why breweries should be running a football team. Soon perhaps Safaricom will run a football team and others. Why can't they channel those resources to social groupings that have got emotional attachment to the game that will promote football in this country? Number two, when FIFA continued unreasonably interfering in the management of football in Nigeria and Cameroon, the government deliberately tell them, go to hell, suspend us for 2-3 years, it doesn't matter, we'll organize our sports, hold elections, have accountable leadership, and we'll come back to play with you. At some point, you might just have to bite the bullet and take us in that direction, because the mess that we see in the management of football in this country is not taking us anywhere. Remember the good old days of Muhammad Abbas, Josephat Morila, JJ Masika, Onyango Jogo, all Ayoi, all those greats. And those are about 20, 30 years ago. We had better football in Kenya 30 years ago than now. You should undertake to Kenyans that you are going to correct this mess. And if it means Kenya missing out on FIFA activities for a year, so be it, so that we can put our things right. Number 4, you already alluded to this. Please change the law, manage organizations that run our sports, give them proper legislation that will say you can be elected, whoever you are, but you run 3-4 years, renewable ones, and you go. So that we don't have people living in sports in perpetuity without giving room to others. I also want to ask you about our athletes. I know you are not a minister yet, hoping you might get favor. Our athletes are treated very badly. I went to the Olympics in London in 2012. All the managers of our athletes who are going to bring us gold medals are flying first class, business class. Our athletes are flying economy, and they go there and they're put in dormitories where they're given a stipend of $50 to $100 maximum, and the managers who do nothing are sleeping in 5-star hotels. You must change this if you are confirmed, because this country can manage its marketing worldwide through our athletics. Which country in the world has its national anthem played in capitals of the world every other day, other than Kenya, because of our athletes? None. Not even the American anthem or Chinese anthem or Indian anthem is played as many times around the world as our anthem. So we hope that you'll do that. If you can respond to that, then I'll read you a few things from Kenyans.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Quickly, I think there must be a question why AFC and Gor Mahia have survived this long. Shabana to a good extent, yes, even Shabana. It's because it's linked to community.
Yes.
Yeah, and I think I can't agree with you more. When we are revising this sports policy, we need to support community clubs.
Yes.
You wonder why one would have a problem with that. I think it was a misconception then that where there was.
Moise said he was fighting tribalism, which was not true.
Yeah, because it's one thing. There are positive things about communities that it doesn't become negative tribalism. You know, the fact that our community owns a particular club is something we should be, and we will do that. Number two is that, Mr. Speaker, as I have said earlier, with utmost respect, our colleagues and friends who are now managing FKF must be ready for change. Mr. Speaker, I know when I say this, they are dangling a particular threat that, oh, you know, if you interfere, we will be banned, and if we are banned, we will not do AFCON. If we are banned, the junior team will not go to Dominican Republic for the World Under 17. Mr. Speaker, we will not operate in this ministry using blackmail. And we are not saying we hate the people who are in that office. They have done their bit. We can as well deploy them to do something else. But let's open the door for other Kenyans to elect sports leaders of sports federation. Do you know, Mr. Speaker, that sports like tennis, like basketball, like cricket, like badminton can really employ so many people? Do you know what? Most of those federations are in people's briefcases. You know, they are walking around with it. You know, there is somebody in this country who is in the badminton federation who travels to Malaysia, where the headquarters is, and he is getting some small allowances and filing returns. And nobody knows. As I have said, transparency must be achieved. You must publish your accounts. You are receiving this money on behalf of the people of Kenya, and we must make sure that FKF, AK, and other federations are going to be run transparently. Mr. Speaker, let me just, for avoidance of doubt, I will not be able to do this job alone. You can see the strength of those cartels. If I get
Parliament will support you.
Yes, Parliament, we will really need Parliament if I am confirmed. Number two, Mr. Speaker, we will need the Chief Justice of the Republic of Kenya to create a conducive environment with our judges of dealing with disputes in sports federations, because there are many federations where the officials are surviving on a court order for more than 10 years. That is ridiculous. Yet the people of Kenya and the young people are losing opportunities because of those delayed elections. The last thing I'd like to say is, Mr. Speaker, yes, I agree with you that our athletes are treated badly. As I said earlier, my first assignment will be to put together stakeholders in every federation. I will start with football and athletics, Mr. Speaker. I want to call all the stakeholders, let them say all the issues. Their cabinet secretary would listen, their ministry would listen, and then from there, we agree on a protocol on how to treat our athletes when they are in international assignments, with clarity of where they will live and so forth. But also we will need also parliamentary support to make sure that the resources can support also where they are going to stay.
Good. One Kenyan asks, I think why are students made to leave school or be absent from school to participate in school games, but are never rewarded like school fees rebates? Another one asks, will you complete Masinde Muliro Stadium in Bungoma? Another one asks, will you complete Kericho Airstrip? That you already answered, even Masinde you talked about. Another one asks, why didn't you open Dongokundu Bridge? I think Mishi has talked to that. Another one says, through sports talents, you can integrate refugees with the host community. Why haven't you done, do you promise to do this for the refugees of Kakuma in Turkana? Then there was another one.
The National Youth Service.
The National Youth Council, why hasn't it held elections for 12, how many years they say? 12. 12 years. You had already talked to that. And somebody says, and this is not your responsibility, that NYS should be in your ministry. Sure. That is up to the appointing authority and the designating authority, who is His Excellency the President.
Chairman.
Yes.
Chairman, it's not a question.
Yes.
It's a comment, just a comment, a brief one from Kenyans. They've asked that I tell the nominee that the young people, they are buying computers, mobiles, laptops, software. They're quite expensive, and they use it to make money through creative, what they record and they share out there. And we already taxed them under the Finance Act 2023. They're asking you, please do not tax them any further, or don't propose any further taxes. And lastly, know about mental health challenges for our young people.
Yes, nominee.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. The rewards, school rebates, yes, St. Patrick's High School, where I went, used to have this free scholarship for all the sports athletes. And they used to even to have a scholarship also for the volleyballers when we were doing very well. Schools should be able to have that kind of a scheme because their sportsmen promote the school, and they can be given scholarships with the board of management working together with the administration to make sure that they support the schools. What we can promise is that we should be able to push a policy where winners in regional, national, whatever, are recognized. I don't know how CBC will work further beyond grade 9. Hopefully, even in the next stage, it's going to be able to integrate these sportsmen and women, or the girls and boys, to make sure that they are rewarded max for their performance in the field. I hope that can be done, and that's a policy decision that is in the Ministry of Education. As I said, it's a very important ministry in terms of working together with the sports department. Dongokundu Bridge will be opened soon. It's nearly complete. That is almost there. Sports integration of the refugees with local community. Mr. Speaker, a little bit of this is not in our ministry per se. That is the integration of the local community and the refugee. That is a decision that has to be made from the interior, from immigration, on the status of the refugee. But as you know, the refugees have a chance to also compete in Olympics.
A man called Losike was trying to link it to sports.
Oh, okay, yeah. Yes, Mr. Speaker. Then I understand what he was trying to do. On the National Youth Council, I spoke to it and I said that I am going to make sure that we do the elections from the grassroots level. On the question of taxes, as has been raised, taxes is on gadgets and equipment and so forth. A GIRI program and Jitume, which is being run from the ICT ministry, had a plan around giving affordable gadgets to young people, including the hubs in the constituency. My proposal is that all these constituency-centered initiatives, community training grounds, Jitume hubs, sports academies, we should make sure that they are in one place, so that when we identify public land in one constituency, we put all these facilities in one place so that youth can benefit from all of them. On the mental health is a very serious issue, Mr. Speaker. Mental health is a very, very serious issue. In fact, mental health goes together with, we must, Mr. Speaker, put in place socio-psycho support. As I enumerated earlier, I've schooled here and abroad. In Kenya, you go to university from first year up to fourth year, you don't meet a counselor anywhere. You go through your problems. Students who lose their parents, they go bury a parent or a relative, they come back, they continue. Nobody talks to them. Nobody cares why their marks have dropped. We have a very, very rude and uncaring, crude actually, uncaring system of education. We must make sure that we put in place social cycle support in our learning institutions. On the sports part, Mr. Speaker, the federations must, and that was part of the recommendation from the Agnes Tirop, the committee that was formed after the Agnes Tirop unfortunate situation, that we must put in place social cycle support for all the athletes. We must also put in place a voluntary saving scheme through NSSF, so that when they are active, they can be able to save for them to support them later. Last, Mr. Speaker, there must also be we must find a way of reaching out to former athletes, boxers, footballers. We know our footballers who are suffering because of mental health. Even athletes, Mr. Speaker. Some started with alcohol and then or drugs and then ended up, Mr. Speaker, in the situation they had. Some. Yes, the group of the boxers like Congestina, the football. I don't want to mention all their names, but I know them because I come from a county that has so many athletes. Mr. Speaker, you go to Iten or neighborhood, you will find former world beaters. Mr. Speaker, people who won marathons. Somebody sleeping in a trench, Mr. Speaker, drunk because of frustrations. Perhaps the little resources they got was swept away by parasites, Mr. Speaker, that come in form of women or relatives or neighbors. Mr. Speaker, their mental health.
Women are not parasites.
Mr. Speaker, as I said even earlier, even men are parasites. I said that earlier. I said some of our girls are being preyed on by men who pretend to be husbands.
So.
Mr. Speaker.
Lastly,
yes, Mr.
nominee, in case you are approved, for our athletes, I started a policy when I was in foreign affairs. World beaters like Young, Faith, Kipyegon, Mora, and others. You should have a policy of giving them protocol services when they travel. Translators. You know, I remember one of our athletes, when she finished a marathon and had won, she was asked, how did you find the sport? She says, I just ran and kept running, and then God came into me, and I continued running, and I won. You know, if you give them support services, media, and there is nothing that outlaws speaking in mother tongue after you have won, as long as you're somebody next to you who can translate what you are saying to the world. So you should consider a policy of giving them that. Then, lastly, under President Kibaki, there was a policy of rewarding our athletes who won medals in the Olympics and elsewhere. President Ruto started awarding those who get gold medals. Is it medals or break world records? Who break world records? We should also extend that to those who win gold medals, silver medals. You know, to some countries, even coming back with bronze is big business. It becomes a national celebration. So you should also have a policy of graduated rewards for these world beaters who bring glory to our country. Now, lastly, I'll ask you a few, those were just comments. But if you want to comment?
Something. Mr. Speaker, I think the biggest problem is that we don't prepare our athletes for after career. If you see the commentators in the Olympics, you will have people like Lewis, people like Michael Johnson, yes. Maria Mutola, you know, former footballers, former athletes are now having opportunity for commentaries. Some, like Sebastian Coe, are now leading World Athletics Council. At least we have Tergat and a few others. Mr. Speaker, what is lacking is we need to make sure that when athletes are come up at 18, 19, 20, they should not leave their education. We must find ways of still linking them to education. If you see what Faith has done and Kipchoge, it is very commendable. You can see they can express themselves, they are able to speak, and they have a better career when they retire. And we need to do more of the same in terms of our athletes, and I agree with you on the same. The last thing is to say that the reward system, the policy, the draft policy has provided for how we will reward our athletes. And this, I will make sure that we complete it so that we have a standard reward system. Sometimes, the government of the day, because elections is about to happen, there's a world championship and there's a clamor in the country that, oh, they have not been rewarded and so forth. They quickly say this athlete will be given 10 million, this one will be given 5, this will be given 20, unsustainable in the first place. When elections is over, we go back to so having a policy will make sure that it's better to say a goal is 1 million and it's achievable, or 500,000, or whichever amount of money which will be agreed and is graduated and paid. I have been told that in the ministry there is almost, I don't know, 500 million or so, I can't remember the figure, of rewards that were promised that are pending. together with pending bills. So the athletes have already retired and they have not been paid. I will make sure those are expedited and paid out, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Murkomen, have you ever been adversely mentioned in any integrity-related report or investigations?
No, Mr. Speaker.
Are you an official of any political party in Kenya?
Mr. Speaker, no.
What is your net worth?
Mr. Speaker, I need to explain this. From the time I was here to now, Mr. Speaker, once I was approved, I got an opportunity.
Answer the first question.
No, I will add it, Mr. Speaker. Just give me 1 minute.
What is your net worth?
I will conclude with it. That, Mr. Speaker, there is a scheme in the public service where if you are a public servant, you can get a mortgage. So after I was approved, I took a mortgage of 40 million, Mr. Speaker, and invested it. Mr. Speaker, beside that, Mr. Speaker, my assets have generally appreciated, the ones that I had before, based on the calculation of the index existing by about 20 million. And Mr. Speaker, other earnings from farming and other businesses, I got about 10 million. So from when I was appointed up to now, I have increased by, Mr. Speaker, plus or minus 70 million shillings, meaning that from the 550 that I declared when I was last year appointed, it is now 620 million, Mr. Speaker. Including all the loans and everything, Mr. Speaker.
Wacha uchokozi wewe. You want to say including watches. I heard you.
Not that one. Not that one, Mr. Speaker. Mr. Speaker.
Yes, Murugana.
Mr. Speaker, let him confirm. There's a Kenyan here who says you actually have 2 choppers. And they fly all over Kenya and doing all manner of things. Is that true?
On any aerial transport?
Not yet,
in the
Mr.
name
Speaker.
of choppers?
No, not yet, Mr. Speaker. Maybe many years later when I've retired.
Now, Honorable Murkomen, we have cross-checked your documents with what we have. We found them in order. You also had the distinction of receiving the highest memoranda against your appointment, 92 in number, and you responded to all of them satisfactorily. And we want to wish you well. You have answered all the questions in a good manner. And unless you are lawfully held, you are discharged to take your leave.
Mr. Speaker, I plead with this committee to find my suitability favorably. And Mr. Speaker, should I be approved, once again, I will serve with great honor and dignity, Mr. Speaker. I thank you.
Good night. Sergeant, can you escort the nominee and give him his documents?